Okay guys, here we are back at Just Math Y'all, and we are going to look at some more exponent videos. And so let's get started. So we are in the series of videos for sections 4-1 and 4-2, which are the exponent rules. This is video number 2. We've already covered rule number 1 and rule number 2. So here we are going into quotient rule, which is rule number 3. Okay, so the quotient rule is when you are dividing powers. So that's the situation that we're at, when dividing powers. So when dividing powers, okay, so let's look at the situation. We have a division right here, right? And then the rule says when dividing the powers, you subtract the exponents. Now this is very weird, and it gets a little complicated from here, so we need to make sure we do these correctly. And let's look at what's going on behind the scenes. It's very important to see that. So for this first example, I've got x to the fifth over x to the second. I know that x to the fifth is just 5x's multiplied, and I know that x to the second is just 2x's multiplied. And so what you need to be reminded of is that there is a fraction association with numbers where when you have the same number on top of itself, it's 1. And so you might not notice that this right here is 1. And this right here is also 1, because when you have 2 over 2, well, that's 1. If you have 3 over 3, that's 1. If you have x over x, that's 1. And so those are both 1s. And so what I'm left with is x to the third on top and a 1 on the bottom. And I don't need that 1 on the bottom, so my answer is just x to the third. So that's what's happening here. Now the rule just says subtract 5 minus 2 and you get 3, and that is correct. But I wanted you to see why it works. So now in this next example, we're going to basically separate the numbers off, okay? And 8 divided by 4, it's 2. So I just know that's 2. I don't have to worry about that. And then the fraction, I've got z to the 6th over z. Well, remember that's of z to the 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. So this would just be z to the 5th. And that's over 1. And of course that 2 is over 1. And so my final answer is just 2z to the 5th. I don't need the over 1 part. Alright, so now this next one's a little bit more complicated. It's got multiple variables. I am going to divide the numbers. 28 over 4, that's just 7. It's 7 over 1. I don't need the 1. I'm going to leave it there for right now. Right, and now when I do the a's, 3 minus 1 is 2, so that would be a to the second. 2 minus 1, remember these are 1s. 2 minus 1 is 1, so that's just b. And then 4 minus 2 is 2, so c to the second. Again, these are all over 1. And so that's my answer for this one. For that. So, excuse me. When dividing powers, basically our shortcut is we subtract the exponents. Now this is going to get a little bit tricky, and so we're going to look at the next rule for this. Here we go.